Hello. I love surprising you. I just wanted to pop in here for a minute. I've been sitting here recording for most of the day, recording some more how-to videos for you. I just wanted to pop in here, tell you hello, and talk about a question that I get a lot in the group. So I just want to take advantage of talking about that for just a few minutes while I was sitting here and had all this recording equipment set up. And I want to talk about how to get a homeschooled kid in a routine. Before I talk about that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. This won't be long because I make all these homeschool how-to videos about you, and I want it to be about you. I'm Tina Robertson. I've homeschooled well over 20 years. I have 3 homeschooled grads. I took them from pre-K to high school. They're young adults now. I created the 7-step do-it-yourself homeschool planner, numerous online courses. I wrote a program for new homeschoolers, taught them in person for 10 years. I created lap books. No, I'm not a crafty person. Yes, I row real organized. So don't think I'm a crafty person because I use lap books and unit studies because it's a mastery approach. That's enough about me. I want to share 3 points about how to get a homeschooled kid in a routine. Now, the first point I want to share with you is when I would conduct workshops with new homeschoolers. Remember I told you I did that for about 10 years? Well, the first thing I would have them do when they were talking about their schedule and they'd come with this list, this huge check-off list of everything they were going to get done and how they were going to try to sandwich homeschool and stuff it into this already busy life, I just thought, oh no, you're going to start off stressful. So the first thing I had them do was to print this checklist that I had, if you will, or printable basically, and it has the hours on it, the days, and they were just going to chart what they did in a week, like what time they actually got up versus what time they had written on their planner that they were going to start homeschool or get up. Because what we want to do is we want homeschool to fit our lifestyle. Let me say that again. We need homeschool to adjust to our family's lifestyle, not the other way around. Now, you can start like I did. I called myself a Nazi mama when I first started. Nobody in my house liked me, my husband, my kids, not even me, because I don't know who I was homeschooling, but suddenly I turned into this drill sergeant. So I didn't like that about myself. That's not how I envisioned my homeschool. So what I had to do was to track my family's routine, my family's rhythm. That's the first point. That's the start in creating a routine for your kids, is to have it fit their rhythm. Now, I'm not talking about, whoops, excuse me, I lost my hand here, the mouse. There I am, I'm back again. I'm not talking about have your children track every little thing they do and you track every little thing that you're doing. What I want to find is for you to find a rhythm to your day. A rhythm, that's what you're trying to do. And I'm not talking about coddling your children. You know whether they're going through a growing spurt. You know if they have special needs. You know if they need rest. You know all of these things about your family and your children. So we're homeschooling. The point I'm making is we're homeschooling because of that. So don't set yourself up for failure by creating a routine or a schedule that can't even meet your family's needs. the same example, what I'm thinking about is an example like preparing a meal. You certainly wouldn't bring anything into your house that would cause your kids to have a terrible allergic reaction. Well, sometimes routines and schedules can do that to us because we don't realize where to begin with. And we start with our family's needs. That's where we start with our family's needs. So that's why I said track. What time are you getting up? What time are you actually eating breakfast versus the time you have written down on this little schedule that you're going to eat breakfast or start school? So we want to make it fit our family's routine. Now, here's another point that I want to share with you. When you're trying to get your children, your homeschool children, to fit a routine, you need to create that routine. So from your observation of what time they actually get up versus what time you want them to get up, and you know whether or not you know that they actually need the rest or whether they need to work on perhaps meeting a deadline. This is not something that other people outside your household can tell you. Only you know that. For example, in my household, we roll pretty early here. And we roll pretty organized, pretty routine. My husband's work schedule is predictable. There's many times it wasn't predictable. Many years he worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I had to adjust to a different type of schedule. So that's also going to add some into your household. How's your spouse routine? Does it affect your routine? Do you really want to school when they're home? When he or she is home? I mean, or don't you want your kids to have time to spend with the other parent? See, this is what I wanted in my homeschool. So you have to think about that and add that to your routine. Okay, so what's your family's actual routine? Then, to have a routine, like I explained, the second point is you have to illustrate that routine. What do I mean by that? Well, you have to create a visual. See, what happens sometimes when we begin to homeschool, even when we struggle, is we have these ideas in our mind, but they never get out on paper or as a visual to share with our family or our children. Organization is simply illustrating or modeling a lot of what we want our children or our family to do. So to have that routine, you want to be able to create that routine. Have an illustration. Draw it big if your children are young. Make it real big on a big board somewhere in the house that everyone can see. Now, one time I tried doing it on an app and share it with all the family members. Well, they looked at it for a short time, and then guess what? After I shared it with them on their devices, woo, that was it. Out of sight, out of mind, and it was. So I said, okay, well, we're going to fix this. So I created a big, huge poster board in the school area. Everybody, when they first woke up, could see that routine. It was a workable routine. And the other thing I did is I created a start to the day. If you want your children to have a routine, then you want to set expectations. Now, I'm not talking about when you're sick or when there's special needs or there's medication involved. I'm not talking about any of those things. If you're dealing with those right now, we need grace, we need flexibility. But what I've learned is a lot of children do well with expectations, guidelines, not strict, overbearing, increased stress in our day, but guidelines, a place to start, an hour to start. My kids were the same way. And some days when I didn't even want to start, they were ready because it was 9 o'clock. They knew it was 9 o'clock. I put it on them to start the day. That was their responsibility. See, I had one son who couldn't get out of the bed. Now, he was a night owl, and we took extra, mercy on him because he couldn't roll as fast in the morning as my first son could. He couldn't roll as fast, and I realized that about him. So what he started on first was not really anything very hard to do until he woke up and got ready to go. But he had to get up at a decent hour. He didn't have any problems with, there wasn't any medical issues. It was just pure, he was unmotivated. So sometimes I read, well, how are we going to get these teens to do this or do that, if we're still getting them up? That's right. It was on him. He had to set his own alarm clock. Was it aggravating? Oh, yes, it was, to hear that thing go off in the house every morning because he wouldn't turn it off. But I put it on him to get up because it's his job to do his school. And from that attitude, then, he realizes that goes over into how he starts his routine, how he begins his school. So it really begins with the day. So with the attitude. So sometimes we really are dealing with attitude when it comes to routine. But again, that's not a call for anyone to make except you. You're the only one that can make that call. So what we want to do is put it on them, but have expectations. So for example, the other thing, after illustrating our routine and showing it and putting it up, the time we're going to start, here's how we're going to cover it, this is what we're going to do together, this is what we're going to do separately, then communicating that to them. But here's the other point too that you need to remember, and that is that you want to be sure that you're following the routine. So the point I'm making is that when it came time to starting school, I wasn't on my phone someplace. I wasn't off doing chores. Oh, I have one more thing. I wanted to put the importance of it, to my children by me doing it myself and following the routine. If I was picking the phone up, if I was doing another chore, if I was doing something else, how could I expect my kids to see the importance of starting their school day or their education? So, we want to model for our kids what we want them to do for the day. So we're ready to get going. We're ready to sit down if we need to sit down at the table with them or whatever age they're at. I know, it was different from when they were pre-K and kindergarten and middle school all the way until they were high school. We studied some of the time together. Sometimes they went to their room. But the point is, we started our day. They knew they were responsible for the chores, devices off unless they were using them for school, and then let's go ahead and get our day started. So plain and simple, I had to model what I wanted them to do. So not only did I have them a start for the day, I illustrated it, then I had to have a plan for the day. Because, sometimes we talk about our kids and they don't have motivation. And it's true. It's hard day in and day out to have the same motivation. It's hard for us as a teacher to do that. So there's other things that we can add to the day. We can combine subjects. We don't have to keep the day the same every day. It shouldn't look the same. There should be some time of it that's formal where we're together, and there should be lots of time where they have unrestrained exploration. They could just explore what they want to or read. It's still considered learning, but it's in a more relaxed way. But I found that when I created that routine and I held them to a time to start each day, we got way more in for the day. It was just a lot better day. And they learned a routine. They didn't wait for me. They weren't teenagers waiting for me to come wake them up in bed and wake them up and tell them to get started. They got up, they knew they were responsible for it. And if they didn't, and I knew there wasn't anything wrong with this one particular boy. He was just unmotivated and was wanting to see what he could get away with. So I had to have very clear consequences, and I didn't have to argue with him. I didn't have to degrade him. I don't do that. But I'm very firm when I say something, and I want him to know that I'm reasonable. If he thinks what I said is, oh, that crazy woman, I want to hear it from him. I'm not running no military encampment. These are my kids. These are my sons I love, and they're now young adults. But what I did worked for them. They knew something was required of them for the day. They had expectations, and as they met those expectations for the day, it just instilled in them a confidence for decision making. They're just very confident young men today. They know how to make decisions. They know how to work when it's time. They know how to do school and their advanced studies when it's time. They get after it and they're responsible. But it starts when they're young by setting this routine, this guideline up. Not something that doesn't serve your family. Remember, you have to start from where your family's needs are. When my children were young, when they were young, they would be up at 5:30. My household started soon. Well, there wasn't any problem with me starting and doing a little bit of school about 7. And then after that time, one or two of them would go back to bed and I could work with the oldest one while the others were sleeping. So my day was different. And then as they all grew up and they got older, I was able to set a time for them. But first, I had to see what was my family's rhythm, make the routine fit their rhythm, then create the routine. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to pop in here for just a few minutes and talk to you. So like I said, I was creating some homeschool how-to videos, and I know routine is something that a lot of us struggle with. And of course, if you have questions, post them here. I'd love to answer them for you, but I just wanted to share those 3 points with you about follow your family's rhythm, illustrate it, don't have them be mind readers, set a plan up, have a start to the day. Have a start to the day, a mild, relaxed start that works for your family. And of course, like I mentioned, when there's special needs, extenuating circumstances, but I found that a start to the day was paramount to keeping that nice rhythm and that nice pace for the routine. And then the last thing is to have a plan. Hey, Misty, it's good to see you here. The last thing is to have a plan for the day because you want to be sure and follow that plan. If you don't have a plan, then your kids really like, what are we doing for the day? But something else, I was getting ready to close here, but one thing else I want to tell you about first, another little secret before I forget, and that is I created a student planner. They're daily assignments, actually. It started off as a daily assignment sheet, and then it morphed into a student planner because I needed some way for my sons to take accountability for what they were doing. And it doesn't have to be very complicated, but I started with those edible daily, weekly checklists where I could put down what they were learning and they could check it or they could write down what they were getting ready to learn. This helped to teach them to be independent. It helped them to learn to step in sync to a routine because there was things they had to do. This was their journey. I wasn't here to spoon feed them their whole life. They're going to be away from me. They are. They're young adults. They have to learn how to make decisions. If they can't make a decision in their day, how it's ran, how are they going to do that when they're away from you? It starts in the house. And we just don't really realize how many things, how many other extra skills that we're teaching them when they're living with us until they're gone. And we think, oh, that was even a valuable life skill. I was teaching them about how to step in sync to a routine. We need one. We need one for the day. So I hope those tips helped you. If you have any questions, just post them. It was good talking to you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.